I'm Aria, 28, and I was standing in my reception hall watching my mother comfort my sobbing sister while my brand new husband squeezed my hand so tight I thought it might break. Across the room, a furious man I barely recognized was shouting something about paternity tests and lies, his face crimson with rage. "She told me she was just feeling sick," my mother whispered frantically. How was I supposed to know she invited her ex to create this spectacle? My meticulously planned wedding, the one I'd saved for since college, chosen every detail of, and dreamed about for years, had just imploded in spectacular fashion. And somehow, I was the only one who seemed surprised. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Growing up as the reliable daughter in the Reed family meant I was always expected to understand, to accommodate, and to put my needs last, especially when it came to my younger sister, Lily. But even I never expected that pattern would follow me all the way to the altar. It all started exactly 12 days before my wedding. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Lily's voice was small, almost childlike as she poked her head into my bedroom. I was surrounded by gift bags, tissue paper, and small thank you cards finalizing the wedding favors that had arrived later than expected. "Sure, but make it quick," I said, not looking up as I tied another satin ribbon. "I still have 30 more of these to finish before Mom and Dad get here for dinner." When she didn't immediately respond, I glanced up. My sister looked pale, her usually perfect makeup non-existent, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun instead of falling in her signature waves. Something was wrong. "What is it?" I asked, instantly shifting into big sister mode, despite being only 15 months older. Lily closed the door behind her and pressed her back against it like she needed the support. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. The ribbon I was tying slipped from my fingers. "What are you sure?" She nodded, her eyes welling with tears. "I've taken 3 tests." My mind raced with questions. Lily hadn't mentioned dating anyone seriously since her breakup with Marcus 6 months ago. They'd been together for nearly 2 years, and the split had been messy. Something about him not being ready for commitment. "It's Marcus," she said quickly. "We hooked up a couple months ago. Just once. He doesn't know, and he's made it very clear he wants nothing to do with me." I stood up and crossed the room to hug her. Whatever complicated feelings I had about her timing, my sister needed support. "Have you been to a doctor? How far along are you?" "About 11 weeks. She sniffed against my shoulder. "I've been in denial, I guess. I kept thinking my period was just late because of stress." 11 weeks. That would explain why she'd been turning down champagne at my bridal shower and bachelorette party. Why she'd been wearing looser clothes and leaving family dinners early, claiming she was tired. "What are you going to do?" I asked carefully. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I'm keeping it. I know the timing is terrible, but I want this baby." The timing. Right. My wedding was in less than 2 weeks. The event I'd spent a year planning down to the last detail. The celebration my fiancé Ben and I had saved for by taking on extra work and cutting back on everything from coffee runs to vacations. But this wasn't about me. "Have you told Mom and Dad yet?" I asked, already knowing the answer. If she had, my mother would have called me immediately. Loie shook her head. "I wanted to tell you first. They're coming for dinner tonight." "Right. I thought maybe we could tell them together." Her eyes were pleading. "I can't do it alone, Aria." I looked at the scattered wedding favors on my bed. They weren't going to finish themselves, and I still had a final meeting with the caterer tomorrow, a dress fitting the day after, and about a million other details to finalize. But Lily needed me. "Of course," I said, pushing away the anxious feeling that was building in my chest. "We'll tell them together." Dinner was a disaster. My parents arrived at 6 o'clock sharp, my mother carrying a bouquet of flowers to brighten up your apartment before the big day, and my father hauling a box of family photo albums she wanted to display at the reception. I thought we could set up a little memory table, Mom explained, setting the box on my coffee table. Baby pictures of you and Ben, family photos, that sort of thing. We already have the photo display planned, Mom, I reminded her. Remember the framed engagement photos with the guest book? She waved dismissively. This will be an addition. Trust me, you'll be glad to have these memories showcased. I bit my tongue. My mother had been adding little touches to my wedding plans for months, despite my gentle reminders that Ben and I had chosen everything purposefully. It wasn't worth arguing about now. Not with Lily's news looming over us. Ben arrived just as I was serving dinner, kissing me on the cheek and murmuring, "Sorry I'm late." Meeting ran long. He squeezed my hand, and I felt the familiar rush of certainty. In less than 2 weeks, we'd be married, starting our life together officially after 6 years as a couple. "How's the investment banking world treating you?" son, my father asked, as we settled around the table. Then launched into a story about a challenging client, and I watched my family, my father nodding along, genuinely interested. My mother rearranging the silverware I'd sent out, Lily pushing food around her plate without eating, and Ben, my steady rock, who'd been by my side through every family drama without complaint. When there was a lull in conversation, Lily caught my eye. I gave her a slight nod of encouragement. "I, actually have something to tell everyone," she said, her voice barely audible. My father set down his fork. "What is it?" Sweetie Lily looked at me again, panic in her eyes. I reached across the table and took her hand. "It's okay," I said softly. She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the refrigerator humming from the kitchen. My father recovered first. "Pregnant, but you're not even seeing anyone. How did this happen?" My mother's hand flew to her chest. "Is it Marcus? Did you get back together?" "No," Lily said, tears beginning to flow. "It's his, but we're not together. He doesn't even know." "Doesn't know?" My father's voice rose. "What do you mean he doesn't know? You have to tell him, Lily." "I tried calling him. He blocked my number after we were together that last time." My mother stood up abruptly, circled the table, and pulled Lily into her arms. "Oh, my baby. My poor baby." I caught Ben's eye across the table. He looked as uncomfortable as I felt. "How far along are you?" my father asked, his initial shock giving way to concern. 11 weeks, Lily whispered against our mother's shoulder. My father did the math quickly. "So you're due early January," she supplied. "Right after the holidays," my mother murmured, stroking Lily's hair. "Oh, sweetheart. Don't worry, we'll figure this all out. I'm keeping the baby," Lily said firmly, pulling away from our mother. "I've already decided." My mother nodded quickly. "Of course. Of course. We'll support whatever you want to do." She looked at my father. "Won't we, Jim?" He nodded, though I could see the worry lines deepening on his forehead. "Absolutely. We're here for you, Lily." I sat quietly, feeling strangely invisible at my own dinner table. Ben reached over and squeezed my knee under the table, a silent show of support. "Have you seen your doctor yet?" my mother asked, now fully in crisis management mode. "We should get you proper prenatal care right away." "I have an appointment next week," Lily said. My mother's eyes widened. "Next week? But that's so close to the wedding. We'll need to reschedule." "Mom, it's fine," Lily insisted. "The appointment's on Monday. The wedding isn't until Saturday. Still, you'll be under so much stress with the wedding preparations. And standing for long periods as a bridesmaid? I'm not sure that's a good idea in your condition." I cleared my throat. "Lily will be fine, Mom." Pregnant women can stand for a ceremony. My mother looked at me as if just remembering I was there. Well, yes, but we don't want to take any chances. She turned back to Lily. Maybe we should talk to the wedding planner about adjusting some things. What things? I asked, feeling a twinge of alarm. Well, for one, Lily shouldn't be standing for too long. Perhaps we could have a chair for her at the altar, and we'll need to make sure she has plenty of breaks during the reception. Mom, I said carefully, I'm sure Lily can handle being a bridesmaid. Pregnant women do much more strenuous things every day. Lily spoke up. Aria's right, Mom. I'll be fine. This is her wedding, and I don't want to change anything. But my mother was already in problem-solving mode. And your bridesmaid dress, is it too tight? We may need to get it altered for comfort. The dress is fine, Lily insisted. It's flowy. No one will even be able to tell. And what about the bachelorette weekend? My father interjected. Should you really be going to a cabin in the mountains in your condition the bachelorette was last month, Dad? I reminded him. Oh, right, he said, looking relieved. Good. My mother stood up suddenly. We should call Pastor Williams. He should know about this development. Why would the officiant need to know Lily is pregnant? I asked, genuinely confused. Well, in case... My mother trailed off, then tried again. If she feels faint during the ceremony, or needs to sit down, or Mom, I interrupted firmly. The wedding is going to proceed exactly as planned. Lily will be fine for a 30-minute ceremony and a few hours of reception. Her pregnancy doesn't change anything about my wedding day. Even as I said the words, I had a sinking feeling they weren't true. And based on the look my mother gave me, equal parts surprise and disappointment, I knew I was right to worry. Of course it doesn't change the wedding, she said in the tone that meant exactly the opposite. But we're a family, and we support each other through difficult times. Lily needs us right now. I felt Ben's hand tighten on my knee. A silent warning not to argue further. He was right, as usual. This wasn't the time. You're right, I conceded. And we'll support Lily. But right now, let's just finish dinner before it gets cold. We ate in awkward silence for several minutes before my father attempted to change the subject. So, Ben, have your parents decided where they're staying for the wedding weekend? As Ben answered, I watched my mother's attention remain fixed on Lily. Her brow furrowed in concentration, as she no doubt mentally reorganized my entire wedding around my sister's pregnancy. I'd spent a year planning this wedding. Every detail had been carefully chosen, from the venue, to the flowers, to the table settings. Ben and I had paid for most of it ourselves, wanting to create a day that represented us as a couple without too much parental interference. But looking at my mother's face as she hovered over Lily, I knew my perfect day was in jeopardy. And the next week passed in a blur of last-minute wedding preparations and family drama. My parents had gone into full crisis mode over Lily's pregnancy, accompanying her to her first doctor's appointment and helping her break the news to extended family members, many of whom would be attending my wedding. Meanwhile, I was trying to finalize seating charts, confirm arrangements with vendors, and keep my own anxiety at bay as the biggest day of my life approached. 3 days before the wedding, my mother called. Aria, honey, I've been thinking, she began, and I immediately tensed. Nothing good ever followed that phrase from my mother. About the sleeping arrangements for the wedding weekend. We had reserved a block of rooms at the hotel where the reception would be held. My parents, Ben's parents, and the bridal party would all be staying there Friday and Saturday night. What about them? I asked cautiously. Well, I know you and Ben were planning to stay in the bridal suite both nights, but I'm wondering if we might make a small adjustment. I closed my eyes, already knowing what was coming. I'm concerned about Lily, she continued. The regular rooms only have those small showers, and with her morning sickness still so bad. You want Lily to have the bridal suite, I said flatly. Just for Friday night. my mother clarified quickly. You and Ben would still have it after the wedding, of course. But Lily really needs the larger bathroom and the extra space right now. You understand, don't you, honey? I bit back my initial response. The bridal suite wasn't just about luxury. It was where my bridesmaids and I were planning to get ready on Saturday morning. We had scheduled the hairstylist and makeup artist to meet us there. We had champagne and breakfast being delivered. Mom, we've already arranged for all the wedding prep to happen in that suite, I explained. The hair and makeup people are coming there. We've paid deposits. Oh, that's no problem, she said brightly. You can all still get ready there. Lily will just sleep there Friday night, and then everyone can use the suite in the morning as planned. I pictured the scene my sister's morning sickness, her belongings strewn about, all while my bridesmaids and I tried to prepare for my wedding day. I don't think that's going to work, I said firmly. The suite is already paid for in my name. Lily can use the bathroom in my suite if she needs to, but she should stay in her assigned room. My mother's tone cooled. Aria, I'm surprised at you. Your sister is going through a very difficult time right now. The least you could do is make this small accommodation for her. The least I could do. As if I hadn't spent my entire life accommodating Lily's needs and dramas. It's my wedding weekend, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I've been planning this for a year. I'm not trying to be selfish, but you are being selfish, she cut in. Lily is carrying your niece or nephew. She's facing single motherhood. And you're worried about a hotel room. I fell silent, the familiar guilt washing over me. Was I being unreasonable? Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal to let Lily have the bridal suite for one night. Fine, I conceded. She can have the suite Friday night. But I need her out of there by 7 a.m. on Saturday so we can start getting ready. Thank you, honey, my mother said, instantly warm again. I knew you'd understand. And speaking of understanding, there's one other small thing. Of course there was. Your father and I were talking about the reception seating, she continued. We think it might be nice to have your grandparents sit with us at the family table instead of at their own table. That way, they can help keep an eye on Lily throughout the evening. The seating chart I had finalized just yesterday. The one the venue needed for the table setup tomorrow. Mom, the seating chart is done. The place cards are printed. We can't change it now. But surely the venue can accommodate one small change. It's just moving 4 people. I closed my eyes and counted to 10 silently. I'll see what I can do, I said finally. Wonderful! Oh, and one last thing. Do you think we could move up the schedule for family photos a bit? Lily gets so tired in the late afternoon these days. By the time I hung up the phone, we had adjusted the photography schedule, the seating chart, and added a special pregnancy-friendly meal option for Lily, despite the fact that she had already selected her meal choice 2 months ago, along with everyone else. I called Ben immediately after, nearly in tears. They're hijacking our wedding, I told him, recounting the conversation. Babe, I know it's frustrating, he said in his calm, reasonable voice. But it's just a few small changes. If it keeps the peace. It's not just these changes, I said. It's the precedent. You know my mother give her an inch and she takes a mile. By Saturday, our entire wedding will revolve around Lily's pregnancy. I doubt it will go that far, he said. And even if your family is being a bit extra, nothing can change the fact that on Saturday, you and I will be married. That's what matters. Right, he was right, of course. The important thing was that we would be husband and wife. Everything else was just details. You're right, I sighed. I'm probably overreacting. A little, he agreed gently. But you're allowed to be stressed right now. It's your wedding week. Our wedding week, I corrected. Our wedding week, he echoed. And nothing your family does can ruin that. I wish I could say Ben was right. But as it turned out, He had vastly underestimated my family's capacity for drama. The rehearsal dinner was the first sign that things were going to be worse than I'd imagined. Ben's parents had generously offered to host it at a beautiful restaurant downtown. They had reserved a private room, arranged for a special menu, and even hired a pianist for background music. It was supposed to be an elegant, intimate gathering for the wedding party and immediate family before the big day. I arrived early with Ben to check that everything was in order and to place the small gift bags we'd prepared for our wedding party at their seats. Ben's mother, Diana, greeted us with warm hugs. "Everything looks beautiful," I told her, taking in the tastefully decorated room. "Thank you so much for doing this." "It's our pleasure, dear," she said, patting my cheek affectionately. "We're so happy Ben found you." My soon-to-be father-in-law, Richard, emerged from a conversation with the restaurant manager to shake Ben's hand and kiss my cheek. The bride and groom arrive. "How are you holding up with all the last-minute details we're managing?" I said with a smile. Ben's parents had been a dream throughout the wedding planning process, offering help when asked, but never overstepping, expressing genuine interest in our choices without trying to change them. I sometimes wondered how they had raised such a balanced, thoughtful son, while my own parents had produced, well, my family. As if on cue, my parents arrived 15 minutes early, which was unusual for them with Lily in tow. "We're here," my mother announced unnecessarily, sweeping into the room. "Oh, isn't this lovely?" "Diana, Richard, you've outdone yourselves." As polite greetings were exchanged, I noticed Lily looking pale and uncomfortable. She was wearing a loose-fitting navy dress that artfully concealed any hint of her pregnancy, which still wasn't showing much at 12 weeks. "Are you feeling okay?" I asked her quietly. She nodded, then whispered, "Just a little nauseous." It comes and goes. "Do you need anything?" Water crackers before she could answer. My mother was by her side. "Lily, honey, you look flushed. Let's get you sitting down." She led Lily to the nearest chair, which happened to be at the head of the table, the spot traditionally reserved for the hosts or the honored guests. In this case, Ben and me. I caught Ben's mother's confused expression but gave her a small shake of my head. It wasn't worth making a scene over. My father approached me as the rest of the guests began to arrive. "Your mother's worried about Lily," he said, his voice low. "She's been having a rough time with this pregnancy." "I understand, Dad," I said. "But can you maybe remind Mom that tonight is supposed to be about Ben and me? The rehearsal dinner is traditionally for the couple." He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "Of course, sweetheart. It's your night. I'll talk to your mother." Whatever conversation they had must have been brief and ineffective, because throughout the evening, my mother managed to redirect almost every conversation back to Lily's pregnancy. When Ben's best man, Tyler, asked if we were excited about our honeymoon in Hawaii, my mother jumped in before we could answer. "They're going to have such a wonderful time," she said. "Though I do worry about them being so far away with Lily's situation." But I suppose January is still months away. During the appetizer course, Ben's aunt politely asked me how I was feeling about tomorrow. "I'm actually surprisingly calm," I began. "I think because Ben and I have been together so long. Getting married feels like a natural progression rather than a huge speaking of natural," my mother interrupted. "Lily has decided on a completely natural birth plan. No interventions unless absolutely necessary." Isn't that brave by the time the main course arrived? I was seething quietly while Ben kept a reassuring hand on my knee under the table. The final straw came when Richard stood to give a toast. He raised his glass and looked around the table warmly. "I'd like to propose a toast to Ben and Aria," he began. "Tomorrow, these two wonderful young people will begin their lives together as husband and wife. Diana and I couldn't be more proud of the man our son has become, and we couldn't be happier about the woman he's chosen to share his life with." There were murmurs of agreement around the table. "Then," Richard continued, Since you were a little boy, you've approached life with thoughtfulness and determination. We've watched you grow into a man of integrity and compassion." He turned to me. "And Aria, you bring out the very best in our son. Your kindness, your strength, and your gracious spirit have been evident to us from the moment we met you." I felt tears prickling behind my eyes at his kind words. "To Ben and Aria," Richard concluded, raising his glass higher. "May your life together be filled with love, laughter, and the kind of partnership that sees you through both joys and challenges." "To Ben and Aria," everyone echoed, lifting their glasses. Except my mother, who chose that exact moment to gasp loudly. All eyes turned to her. "Lily, sweetie, are you okay?" she asked, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. Lily, who had been quietly sipping water and appeared perfectly fine, looked startled. "I'm fine, Mom." But my mother was already out of her chair and at Lily's side. "You winced. I saw you wince." "Is it cramping? Should we call the doctor, Mom?" Lily hissed, clearly embarrassed. "I'm fine. I just had a twinge. It's normal." The warm, celebratory atmosphere created by Richard's toast had evaporated. Ben's family exchanged uncomfortable glances while my mother fussed over Lily, feeling her forehead and insisting she drink more water. I caught Ben's eye across the table. The sympathy and slight embarrassment I saw there was the final blow to my composure. I stood up abruptly. "Excuse me," I managed before heading for the restroom, blinking back tears. I had barely made it into a stall when I heard the door open and close. "Aria?" It was Ben's mother. "Are you all right, dear?" I took a deep breath and emerged, attempting a smile. "I'm fine. Just needed a moment." Diana looked at me with such understanding that I felt my carefully maintained composure begin to crumble. "Oh, honey," she said, opening her arms. I stepped into her embrace and finally let the tears fall. "I'm sorry," I said against her shoulder. "I don't mean to be dramatic." "You're not being dramatic," she assured me, stroking my hair the way my own mother used to do when I was little before Lily became the center of her universe. "You're under a lot of pressure, and your family is. Well, they're not making it easier." I pulled back and accepted the tissue she offered. "I knew they'd make a fuss about the pregnancy, but I didn't think they'd completely hijack our wedding weekend." Diana sighed. "Every family has its dynamics. And I've learned over the years that it's usually best not to interfere in other people's family matters." She paused. "But I will say this tomorrow is your day, yours and Ben's. Don't let anyone take that away from you." I wiped my eyes carefully, mindful of my makeup. I'm trying not to. But it's like my sister's pregnancy is all anyone in my family can think about. "Well, we're thinking about you," Diana said firmly. "Richard and I, Ben's sister, our whole family, we're all here to celebrate you too. Try to focus on that." Her words were exactly what I needed to hear. "Thank you," I said. "Really." She smiled. "Now, let's fix your makeup and get back out there. My son is probably wondering if you've decided to call off the wedding and leave him at the altar." I laughed, already feeling lighter. "Never. Ben's the best thing that ever happened to me." "And you're the best thing that ever happened to him," she replied. "Remember that tomorrow when your mother is having a conniption over whatever imaginary pregnancy emergency she's conjured up." We returned to the dining room to find that everyone had moved on to dessert. Ben looked up as I approached and mouthed, "Okay." I nodded, reclaiming my seat beside him. The rest of the evening passed without major incident, though my mother continued to hover over Lily and make pointed comments about how family takes care of family in times of need. Each time, I took a deep breath and reminded myself of Diana's words tomorrow was about Ben and me. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, my mother approached me. "Aria, your father and I have been talking, and we think it might be better if we stay at the hotel tonight instead of waiting until tomorrow. That way, we can be close to Lily. Lily, who was chatting comfortably with one of my bridesmaids across the room, showing no signs of distress. Your rooms won't be ready until 3 tomorrow, I reminded her. That's why we planned for you to come straight to the venue for the pre-ceremony photos. Well, I've already called the hotel, and they said they could accommodate us tonight for an additional fee. I put it on my credit card. Of course she had. Fine, I said, too tired to argue. But please remember that the photographer is scheduled for specific times. We need everyone there at 2 o'clock sharp for the family photos. Oh, about that, my mother said. I was thinking we might need to adjust the photo schedule a bit. Lily really needs to rest in the afternoon. And, no, I interrupted firmly. The schedule stays as is. The photographer has other commitments later, and we've planned everything down to the minute. My mother looked taken aback by my tone. Well, I'm just trying to look out for your sister. I understand that. But tomorrow is my wedding day. One afternoon of following a schedule won't hurt Lily or the baby. My mother's lips thinned. I certainly hope not. But pregnancy can be unpredictable, especially in the first trimester. Mom. I took her hands in mine, forcing her to really look at me. I love Lily, and I'm excited about becoming an aunt. But please, just for tomorrow, can we focus on the wedding the day Ben and I had been planning for a year? Something in my expression must have gotten through to her because her face softened slightly. Of course, sweetheart. It's your big day. She squeezed my hands. I just want everything to be perfect. Then trust that the plans we've made will work out perfectly, I said. No last-minute changes, no special accommodations. Just the beautiful wedding we've been planning. All right, she conceded. No more changes. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I should have known better than to take my mother at her word. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect September day. I woke up in my and Ben's apartment, where I'd spent my last night as a single woman. Ben had stayed with Tyler, following the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. My maid of honor, Rachel, arrived at 9 with coffee and bagels, bubbling with excitement. "It's your wedding day!" she squealed, hugging me tight. "How do you feel happy?" I said, and it was true. Despite the family drama of the past week, I was marrying my best friend today. Nothing could dampen that joy. My phone chimed with a text from Ben. Last chance to run away with the circus instead. I smiled and typed back tempting. But I hear the elephant keeper position is filled. See you at the altar, future husband. Rachel and I were just finishing breakfast when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Area, honey." "Small change of plans," she said without preamble. "We're going to meet you at the hotel instead of the venue." I frowned. "But we're getting ready at the hotel. The ceremony is at the venue. That's why we scheduled the photos at the venue so we don't have to transport the entire wedding party back and forth. Yes, well, Lily is having a rough morning. The doctor said travel might make her nausea worse, so we want to minimize her movement today." I closed my eyes briefly. "Mom, we'd been over this. The schedule is set." "It's just a small adjustment," she insisted. "Instead of meeting at the venue for photos, we'll do them at the hotel. Then only Lily has to make one trip. The photographer is expecting us at the venue. The lighting is better there. That's why we chose it. And the first look with Ben is planned for the garden. I'm sure the photographer can adjust. These people are professionals, after all." I bit back a frustrated response. "Let me call the photographer and see what's possible," I said instead. "I'll call you back." I hung up and immediately dialed Megan, our photographer. "Hey, bride," she answered cheerfully. "Ready for the big day. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. Megan was silent for a moment. I can make it work, she said finally. But you'll lose some of the outdoor shots we planned. The hotel doesn't have the same kind of natural light or greenery for backgrounds. I know, I said, disappointment settling in my stomach. But it might be our only option. It's your call, Megan said. If you want to stick to the original plan, I can try talking to your mom when I arrive. The thought of subjecting Megan to my mother's pregnancy-focused tunnel vision was too cruel. No, it's fine, I sighed. Let's adjust. Can you meet us at the hotel at 2 instead of the venue will do? She confirmed. And area, try not to stress too much. At the end of the day, you'll have beautiful photos of you marrying the love of your life, no matter where we take them. I thanked her and hung up, then called my mother back to confirm the change. Wonderful, she said. This will be so much better for Lily. Not for the first time. I wondered if my parents realized they had 2 daughters. Rachel, who had been listening to both conversations, gave me a sympathetic look. Your sister's pregnancy is really taking center stage, huh? You have no idea, I said. And it's only going to get worse when everyone finds out. They've only told immediate family so far. Well, forget about that for now, Rachel said briskly. Today is about you and Ben. Now, let's head to the hotel and get you ready to knock your groom's socks off. When we arrived at the hotel, my first hint of trouble was the Do Not Disturb sign hanging on the door of the bridal suite. My bridal suite, which Lily had been using overnight as per my mother's request. I knocked softly. Lily, it's me. We're here to start getting ready. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Lily, the door finally opened to reveal my sister, still in pajamas, looking pale and drawn. Sorry, she mumbled. Morning sickness. I peeked past her into the suite. It looked like a hurricane had hit it. Her clothes were strewn across the furniture, the bed was unmade, and the bathroom door was open, revealing wet towels on the floor. We need to get set up, I said, trying to keep the alarm out of my voice. The hair and makeup people will be here in 20 minutes. I'm not feeling great, Lily said, leaning against the doorframe. I might need to lie down again. Rachel stepped forward. Why don't I help you get your things together and move you to your regular room, the one you'll be in tonight? Lily looked like she might protest, but my mother appeared behind her, already dressed for the day in a casual outfit she'd change out of later. Good morning, girls, she said brightly. Lily's had a rough start, I'm afraid. The doctor says it's perfectly normal, but she needs to take it easy today. I exchanged glances with Rachel, who raised her eyebrows slightly. Mom, I said carefully, we need to set up in here. The hair and makeup team will be here any minute, and my bridesmaids are on their way. Of course, my mother said, stepping into the hall. Lily, why don't you rest in our room for a bit? I've set up a little comfort station for you there. Lily nodded gratefully and shuffled down the hall with our mother's arm around her shoulders. Rachel waited until they were out of earshot before whispering, Comfort station, don't ask. I sighed. Let's just get this place cleaned up before everyone arrives. We worked quickly, straightening the bed, gathering Lily's discarded clothes, and airing out the bathroom. By the time the hairstylist and makeup artist arrived, the suite looked presentable again, though the lingering scent of sickness remained despite the open windows. As my bridesmaids trickled in, the suite filled with the excited chatter and laughter I'd been looking forward to. For a blissful hour, as Marissa worked on my hair and the others took turns in the makeup chair, I was able to forget about the family drama and focus on the fact that I was marrying Ben today. Then my mother returned. The photographer just called me, she announced, bustling into the suite. She said there's been a change of plans about the photos I looked up from the magazine I'd been flipping through while Marissa pinned another section of my hair. Yes, I spoke with her this morning. We're doing all the photos here instead of at the venue, like you asked. My mother frowned. But that won't work. Lily needs to rest between getting ready and the ceremony. She can rest, I said, confusion creeping in. The photos will only take an hour or so, but she'll need the suite to lie down in. We can't have people in and out while she's trying to rest. I stared at my mother. This is the bridal suite. It's where I'm getting ready for my wedding. Lily has her own room now. Yes, but it's right next to the ice machine, my mother said as if this explained everything. The noise will disturb her. And the bathroom is so small. If she gets sick again... I closed my eyes briefly, counting to 10 in my head. When I opened them, Rachel was staring at my mother with undisguised disbelief. "Mrs. Reed," she said with forced politeness, "I'm sure the hotel can find a quieter room for Lily if needed. But this suite is already set up for hair and makeup, and all the various things are here." My mother looked affronted. Well, I was just thinking of what's best for everyone. Lily needs a quiet place to rest, and the photographer could certainly take pictures in the garden or lobby instead of crowding in here. "The photographer is coming here because you asked us to change the original plan," I reminded her, feeling my patience wearing thin. "We were supposed to do photos at the venue, remember, yes? But that was before I realized how bad Lily's morning sickness would be today," my mother countered. "The doctor says stress can make it worse, and she's already feeling so guilty about imposing." "She's not imposing," I said automatically, though part of me felt exactly the opposite. "But Mom, this is my wedding day. I need some things to go according to plan." My mother's expression softened into something almost pitying. "Oh, honey. Weddings never go exactly as planned. That's part of what makes the day special, the little unexpected moments." Behind her, Rachel made a choking sound that she quickly disguised as a cough. "The bridal suite stays with the bride," I said firmly. "Lily can rest in her room or yours, but I need this space today." For a moment, I thought my mother might argue further, but she simply pursed her lips and nodded. "I'll let your father know." He was going to bring Lily some tea and crackers. After she left, the suite erupted in whispered commentary. "Is your sister really that sick, my bridesmaid?" Jenna asked. "Wanting sickness can be rough," another bridesmaid, Tasha, offered. "My cousin was hospitalized for dehydration during her first trimester." "Still," Rachel said, "it's weird how your mom is making everything about Lily today." I met her eyes in the mirror. Welcome to my life. Marissa, who had been quietly working on my hair throughout this exchange, squeezed my shoulder sympathetically. "Well, you look beautiful. And in a few hours, none of this will matter, because you'll be married to Ben." She was right. Yet her words reminded me to focus on what was important. I was marrying the man I loved today. Everything else was just noise. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. My father arrived with a package from Ben, a delicate bracelet with our initials and wedding date engraved on a small gold charm. My bridesmaids helped me into my dress, a simple but elegant Align gown with lace detailing on the bodice. The photographer arrived and captured these moments, along with some posed shots of me with my bridesmaids. By the time we were ready for the family photos, it was nearly 3 o'clock, an hour later than originally planned, due to various delays, most involving my sister's need to rest, eat, or be sick at precisely the moments we needed her. "Where's Lily?" I asked, as my parents joined us in the hotel garden for photos. "She's just touching up her makeup," my mother said. "The poor thing was sick again right after lunch." I exchanged glances with the photographer, who gave me a subtle nod she'd adjust the schedule as needed. We started with photos of me with my parents, then added in Ben's parents, who had arrived precisely on time, elegant and composed as always. Lily finally appeared 20 minutes later, looking pale but put together in her bridesmaid dress, a dusty blue floor-length gown that complemented the other bridesmaids' dresses. "Sorry," she murmured as she took her place beside me for the sibling photos. I didn't mean to hold things up. It's fine, I said automatically. And it was fine, I reminded myself. Nothing had gone disastrously wrong. We were running behind schedule, but we still had time before the ceremony was set to begin at 5 o'clock. As the photographer directed us through various poses, I noticed my mother hovering constantly near Lily, adjusting her hair, offering her water, asking repeatedly if she needed to sit down. Each time, Lily would flush with embarrassment and insist she was fine. Actually, the photographer said after capturing several family groupings, why don't we take a few with just Aria and her sister you two stand over by that flowering tree? As we moved into position, Lily whispered, I'm sorry about Mom. She's being ridiculous. I squeezed her hand. It's not your fault. Still, she said, looking genuinely distressed, this is your day. I feel like I'm stealing your thunder. For the first time since she'd announced her pregnancy, I felt a rush of genuine sympathy for my sister. She hadn't asked for our mother to make her the center of attention. If anything, she looked mortified by it. Don't worry about it, I told her. Just smile for the camera and try not to throw up on my dress. She laughed, and the photographer captured the moment a genuine smile shared between sisters. It was a bright spot in an otherwise stressful day. After the photos, we had just enough time to make it to the venue for the ceremony. As we loaded into the cars, my mother announced, Lily will ride with your father and me. She needs extra space, in case she feels carsick. I nodded, beyond arguing at this point, and climbed into the car with Rachel and 2 other bridesmaids. You okay? Rachel asked quietly, as we pulled away from the hotel. I just want to get to the venue and marry Ben, I said. Everything else is white noise at this point. The venue, a beautifully restored historic building with gardens for the ceremony and a ballroom for the reception, was already busy with activity when we arrived. The wedding coordinator met us at the entrance, clipboard in hand and a slightly harried expression on her face. There you are, she exclaimed. We were getting worried. The guests are already being seated. I checked my watch. It was 4:30. We were cutting it close, but still on time. Sorry, I said. We had some delays with the photos. She nodded briskly. No problem. Let's get you and your bridesmaids to the bridal room. The groom and groomsmen are already in position. Ben was here. The thought sent a flutter of excited nerves through my stomach. In less than 30 minutes, we would be standing together in front of our friends and family, promising to love each other for the rest of our lives. As we hurried through the venue to the bridal room, I caught a glimpse through a window of the ceremony site, white chairs arranged in neat rows facing an arch covered in flowers, exactly as I had envisioned it. Guests were indeed being seated, some already in place, others milling around greeting friends. Everything looked perfect. Maybe the rest of the day would go smoothly after all. I should have known better. We had barely settled in the bridal room when there was a knock at the door. The wedding coordinator poked her head in. Aria, your mother is asking if we can delay the ceremony by 15 minutes. Your sister isn't feeling well. I took a deep breath. Is she sick, just lightheaded, apparently? Your mother has her lying down in the groom's room. She said it was closer to the restrooms. The groom's room, I repeated. Where is Ben getting ready? The coordinator looked uncomfortable. They've relocated to a small office near the back entrance. Your mother was quite insistent. Of course she was. Tell them the ceremony will start as scheduled, I said firmly. My sister can sit during the ceremony if she needs to. The coordinator nodded, clearly relieved not to be making yet another last-minute change, and hurried off. Your mother kicked the groom out of the groom's room, Rachel asked incredulously. For your sister, I was saved from answering by another knock on the door. This time it was my father, looking apologetic. Honey, your mother sent me to ask if we could push back the start time just a bit. Lily's feeling a little. No, Dad, I interrupted. The ceremony starts at 5, as planned. 300 people are being seated right now. The musicians are ready. The officiant is waiting. My father ran a hand through his thinning hair. I understand, but your mother is worried that Lily won't be able to stand up with the bridesmaids. And it would mean so much to her to be part of the ceremony. She can sit in the front row if she's not feeling well enough to stand, I said. But we are not delaying the ceremony. He looked like he wanted to argue further, but must have seen something in my expression that made him reconsider. All right. I'll let your mother know. After he left, I turned to my bridesmaids. I need a minute alone, if that's okay. They filed out quietly, Rachel giving my shoulder a supportive squeeze as she passed. Alone in the bridal room, I allowed myself a brief moment of frustration. I'd known my family would make a fuss about Lily's pregnancy, but I hadn't anticipated them actually rearranging my wedding day to accommodate her. The bridal suite, the photo location, the groom's room, each change was small on its own, but together they formed a pattern that was all too familiar. Lily's needs first, mine second. A soft knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. Aria, it was Ben's voice. Can I come in? Isn't it bad luck to see the bride before the wedding? I called back. Though at this point, I felt like we'd accumulated enough bad luck to last a lifetime. I'm not coming in, he assured me. Just wanted to check on you. Your mom found me and explained about Lily. Of course she had. I'm fine, I said, moving to stand near the door. But apparently my sister has taken over the groom's room. Ben chuckled. So I heard. I'm in what I think is a janitor's office, but Tyler brought a flask, so it's not all bad. Despite everything, I laughed. This was why I was marrying Ben, his ability to find humor in the most frustrating situations, his steadiness when everything around us was chaos. I'm sorry about my family, I said. Don't be. They're about to be my family too, quirks and all. Bold of you to call hijacking our wedding a quirk. He was quiet for a moment. Is that how you feel that they're hijacking our day? I hesitated, not wanting to sound petty or unsympathetic to my sister's condition. It's just, every time I turn around, something else is being changed to accommodate Lily. The bridal suite, the photo location, now the groom's room. And my mother tried to delay the ceremony. What did you tell her that the show goes on as scheduled? That's my girl, Ben said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Listen, in 15 minutes, we're going to be standing in front of everyone we love, promising to build a life together. Nothing else matters. He was right, of course. The details that seemed so important, the perfect timeline, the planned photo locations, even the rooms we got ready in were insignificant compared to the commitment we were about to make. I love you, I said. I love you too. Now finish getting beautiful, though that can't take much more effort. I'll see you at the altar. I heard his footsteps retreating, and my heart felt lighter. Ben was right. Nothing else mattered but the two of us and the promises we were about to make. When my bridesmaids returned, I was smiling genuinely for the first time in hours. Ready, Rachel asked, holding out my bouquet, a cascade of white roses and blue delphinium with sprigs of greenery. Ready, I confirmed. The wedding coordinator appeared in the doorway. It's time, ladies. Bridesmaids, follow me to the ceremony entrance. Aria, your father is waiting to walk you down the aisle. As my bridesmaids filed out with excited whispers and last-minute hugs, I took a deep breath and smoothed the front of my dress. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. I met my father in the small antechamber that led to the garden. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, though his brow was creased with worry. You look beautiful, sweetheart, he said, taking my hands in his. Just like your mother on our wedding day. Is Lily okay? I asked. knowing it was on his mind. His expression relaxed slightly. She's feeling better. Your mother is with her. They'll join a processional right on time. Good, I said, genuinely relieved. Despite everything, I wanted my sister beside me on my wedding day. The coordinator signaled that it was time, and the music changed the cue for the bridesmaids to begin walking. One by one, they disappeared through the doorway into the sunlit garden beyond. That's our cue, my father said, offering his arm. I took it, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. As we stepped through the doorway and the assembled guests rose to their feet, my eyes went immediately to the front, where Ben stood waiting. He was smiling that special smile that had always been just for me, from our first date to this moment. Everything else faded away. The stress of the morning, my mother's hovering, Lily's pregnancy drama, none of it mattered. Ben was waiting for me, and I was walking toward our future together. My father placed my hand in Ben's, and the officiant began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. The ceremony was everything I'd hoped for, meaningful, intimate, despite the large number of guests, and focused entirely on Ben and me. We exchanged the vows we'd written ourselves, promised to love and cherish each other through whatever life brought our way, and sealed our union with a kiss that made the audience cheer. As we turned to face our family and friends as husband and wife for the first time, I caught sight of my mother in the front row, wiping tears from her eyes with one hand, while the other gripped Lily's arm. My sister gave me a genuine smile and a thumbs up. Maybe, I thought as Ben and I walked back down the aisle amid applause and cheers, the worst was behind us. The ceremony had gone perfectly, and surely the reception would be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Now the cocktail hour passed in a blur of congratulations and well wishes as Ben and I moved through the crowd, greeting guests and accepting their congratulations. My mother, to her credit, seemed to have finally remembered whose day it was, introducing us proudly to distant relatives and old family friends as the newlyweds. Lily kept a low profile, sitting at a table with our cousins, sipping water and looking tired but happy. I made a point of stopping by to check on her. "You did good," she said, giving me a hug. The ceremony was beautiful. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Better," she assured me. "I think the worst of the day's morning sickness has passed. And Mom's finally giving me some breathing room." I glanced around. "Where is she?" "Anyway, talking to the catering staff about my special meal." Lily rolled her eyes. I told her I could eat the regular chicken option, but she insisted. I hadn't even known there was a special meal arrangement. Added to the list of changes my mother had made without consulting me. "Well, I'm glad you're feeling better," I said sincerely. "I want you to enjoy the party." "I will," she promised. "Now go be with your husband. This is your day." My husband. The words sent a thrill through me. I found Ben chatting with his college roommates and slipped my arm through his. He immediately pulled me closer and introduced me. "Have you met my wife?" "I think we've met." I played along, smiling at his friends. "She seems familiar." As cocktail hour wound down, the wedding coordinator guided guests to their tables in the main reception hall. Ben and I waited to make our grand entrance, stealing a few quiet moments alone. "Happy?" he asked, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Ecstatic," I said honestly. "Though I'll be even happier once we're on the plane to Hawaii tomorrow. Just you and me, and no family drama." "Amen to that," he agreed, leaning in for a kiss. The coordinator reappeared. Ready for your entrance, we nodded, and she spoke into her headset. Moments later, the DJ's voice boomed through the reception hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, for the first time as husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin and Aria Hartford." We entered to applause and cheers, making our way to the dance floor for our first dance, a slow, sweet song we'd chosen together early in our engagement. As Ben led me around the floor, I caught glimpses of our guests watching Ben's parents, arms around each other and smiling proudly my father, looking emotional Rachel, pretending to wipe away tears while grinning widely. And my mother, once again hovering at Lily's side, whispering something in her ear as my sister nodded tiredly. I pushed the observation away. I wouldn't let anything spoil this moment. After our dance, the reception kicked into full gear. The band was excellent, the food delicious, and the atmosphere exactly what I'd hoped for: joyful, elegant, and fun. For the next hour, I almost forgot about the morning's stress and family drama. Then, it was time for toasts. My father went first, his speech touching and funny, full of stories about my childhood and warm words about welcoming Ben to the family. Ben's father followed with an equally heartfelt tribute to his son and a welcome to me as his new daughter-in-law. Next came the best man and maid of honor. Tyler's speech had everyone laughing with stories of Ben's college antics, while Rachel's tribute to our friendship brought happy tears to my eyes. And now, the DJ announced, Lily Red would like to say a few words about her sister and new brother-in-law. This was unexpected. I hadn't seen Lily approach the DJ, but when I looked around, I spotted my mother practically escorting my sister to the microphone. Lily looked nervous as she accepted the microphone, her free hand unconsciously moving to rest on her still flat stomach. "For those who don't know me, I'm Arya's little sister," she began. "And I want to start by saying what an honor it is to be part of this beautiful day." She paused, looking directly at me. Arya has always been the responsible one, the planner, the person everyone can count on. She's been my rock through every crisis, every heartbreak, every challenge, including some very recent ones. I felt a flutter of apprehension. She wouldn't announce her pregnancy here. Would she not during a wedding toast I'm about to embark on a new chapter of my life? Lily continued. One that's both exciting and terrifying. And I know that no matter what happens, Arya will be there for me, just like she always has been. My mother was beaming, nodding encouragingly. But today isn't about me or my journey, Lily said firmly, and I felt a rush of gratitude. Today is about Arya and Ben, and the beautiful life they've started together. To my amazing sister, and her equally amazing husband, may your marriage be filled with love, laughter, and all the happiness you both deserve. She raised her water glass. To Arya and Ben. To Arya and Ben, the crowd echoed, raising their glasses. As Willie handed back the microphone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The toast had been perfect, acknowledging her situation without making it the focus, bringing the attention right back to Ben and me. Maybe the rest of the night would go smoothly after all. I should have known better than to tempt fate. As dinner was being served, I noticed a commotion near the entrance to the reception hall. The coordinator was speaking with someone, a man I didn't recognize, and shaking her head emphatically. He seemed agitated, gesturing forcefully and trying to move past her. "Who's that?" I asked Ben, nodding toward the entrance. He squinted. "No idea." Wedding crasher before we could speculate further, the man pushed past the coordinator and stormed into the reception. As he drew closer, I caught a better look at his face and felt a jolt of recognition. It was Marcus Lily's ex-boyfriend, the father of her baby, the man who had supposedly wanted nothing to do with her or the pregnancy. He scanned the room frantically until his eyes landed on our family's table, where Lily sat between my parents. His face contorted with anger, and he headed straight for them. "Oh no," I murmured. "Ben, that's Marcus." Ben was immediately alert. "Lily's ex? What's he doing here?" "I have no idea, but it can't be good." We both stood, but before we could intercept him, Marcus had reached the family table. "You lied to me!" His voice carried across the suddenly hushed reception hall. "You've been lying to everyone." Lily had gone pale, her eyes wide with what looked like genuine fear. My father stood up, positioning himself between Marcus and my sister. "This is a private event," he said firmly. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to leave." "Not until she tells the truth," Marcus snarled, pointing at Lily. "Not until she admits that baby isn't mine." A collective gasp rippled through the reception hall. I felt rooted to the spot, unable to process what was happening. The baby wasn't his, but Lily had said, "Marcus, please." Lily's voice was barely audible. "Not here. This is my sister's wedding." "You didn't care about that when you used it to lure me here," he shot back. "Your mother called me, told me you were pregnant with my child, that I should do the right thing and come see you today. But there's no way that baby is mine, Lily. We haven't been together in over 6 months." My mother jumped to her feet. "That's not true!" "Lily told us you were together 2 months ago." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Is that what she told you? We haven't so much as texted since February." "I've been in Seattle since March, and I have the flight records to prove it." The implications of what he was saying began to sink in. If Marcus hadn't been with Lily in the past 6 months, and she was only 11 weeks pregnant. "You're lying," my mother insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. "Ask her," Marcus challenged, pointing at Lily again. "Ask her who the father really is. Ask her why she told you it was me. Ask her why she had you call me today of all days. During a wedding, for God's sake." All eyes turned to Lily, who sat frozen in her chair, tears streaming down her face. "Lily," my father's voice was gentle but firm. "What's going on?" She opened her mouth, closed it again, then covered her face with her hands and began to sob. The silence in the reception hall was deafening. 300 guests sat witnessing my family's drama unfolding in real time, like a particularly uncomfortable reality show. I felt Ben's hand on my arm. "We should do something," he murmured. He was right. This was still our wedding, regardless of whatever mess Lily had created. I needed to take control of the situation before it completely derailed our reception. I nodded and we started toward the family table. But before we could reach it, Lily suddenly stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Fine!" she cried, her voice breaking. "It's not yours, Marcus." I lied. "Okay, I lied to everyone." My mother looked stricken. "Lily, what are you saying the baby is Josh's?" Willie said miserably. "You know, from accounting at my office, we've been seeing each other for a few months, but he's married. When I told him I was pregnant, he said he couldn't leave his wife." I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. "Josh, from accounting." The married man Lily had mentioned having a crush on months ago, whom I'd specifically warned her to stay away from. "So you decided to lie and say it was mine?" Marcus demanded. "And then what your mother calls me out of the blue, tells me you're pregnant with my baby, but I should come to a wedding to be there for you. What was the endgame here? Lily, did you think I'd just believe you and step up as Daddy Lily was crying too hard to answer?" My mother had collapsed back into her chair, looking shell-shocked. My father stood rigid, his face a mask of confusion and disappointment. The wedding coordinator had appeared at my side. "Do you want me to have security remove him?" she whispered. I thought quickly. Removing Marcus would only create more of a scene, and honestly, he wasn't the one at fault here. He'd been lied to, just like the rest of us. "No," I said. "But can you ask the band to start playing again loudly, and maybe have the servers continue with dinner service?" She nodded and hurried off. Moments later, the band struck up a lively tune, and servers began moving through the tables again, creating a buzz of activity that drew at least some attention away from the ongoing family drama. Ben and I finally reached the family table. My father looked at me with such apology in his eyes that I felt a pang of sympathy despite my anger. We need to take this somewhere private, I said quietly but firmly. Without waiting for a response, I turned to Marcus. I understand you're upset, and you have every right to be. But this isn't the place to hash this out. There's a small meeting room down the hall where you can talk. Marcus looked at me, seeming to really see me for the first time. You're the bride, he said, his anger deflating slightly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your wedding. You didn't ruin anything, I assured him, though I wasn't entirely convinced of that myself. But please, take this conversation elsewhere. He nodded, then turned back to Lily. We need to talk. Now. My sister stood shakily, still crying. My mother immediately moved to her side, but Lily shook her head. Not now, Mom. I need to talk to Marcus alone. My mother looked like she wanted to protest, but my father placed a restraining hand on her arm. Let them go, Helen. This is between them. I signaled to the coordinator, who led Marcus and Lily toward the exit. As they left, I could see guests beginning to whisper among themselves, shooting curious glances at our family table. The dramatic confrontation would be the talk of the wedding, overshadowing everything else. My mother turned to me, her face crumpling. Aria, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Lily told us. We thought. I held up a hand, stopping her. Not now, Mom. This isn't the time or place. But your wedding is going to continue, I said firmly. Ben and I are going to enjoy our reception with our friends and the family members who haven't created a scene. You and Dad can either join us in that or deal with Lily's situation. Your choice. I didn't wait for her response. Taking Ben's hand, I led him back to the dance floor, where a few brave souls had begun dancing to the band's upbeat music. Dance with me, I said to my husband. Ben looked concerned. Are you sure you don't want to dance with my husband at my wedding reception? Yes, I'm very sure. He smiled slightly and took me in his arms. As we moved around the floor, other couples gradually joined us, and the atmosphere in the room began to shift back toward celebration, though I could still feel curious eyes on us and hear the murmur of gossip beneath the music. You okay? Ben asked softly. Not really, I admitted. But I refuse to let Lily's drama ruin our wedding. We've got about 2 hours left of this reception, and I intend to enjoy every minute. That's my girl, he said, pulling me closer. For the next hour, we did our best to salvage the reception. We cut the cake, tossed the bouquet, and danced with our friends. My parents remained at the family table, looking shell-shocked and occasionally whispering urgently to each other. Lily and Marcus didn't return. As the night wound down and guests began to leave, offering congratulations tinged with sympathetic glances, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was my father. Can we talk for a minute? He asked quietly. I nodded, and Ben squeezed my hand before releasing it to let me step aside with my father. I don't even know where to begin, my father said, looking older than I'd ever seen him. What happened tonight? There's no excuse. No, I agreed. There isn't. Your mother and I believed Lily when she said the baby was Marcus's. We had no idea she was lying, or that your mother's call would bring him here like that. I studied my father's face. He looked genuinely distressed, and I believed he hadn't known about Lily's deception. But that didn't change the fact that my parents had spent the past 2 weeks making my wedding all about Lily and her pregnancy. I believe you didn't know she was lying about Marcus, I said carefully. But Dad, you and Mom had been so focused on Lily's pregnancy that you almost forgot it was my wedding. The bridal suite, the photos, the seating changes, it was like my feelings didn't matter at all. My father winced. I know. We got caught up in Lily's situation, and we didn't consider how it was affecting you. It's a pattern, I said, voicing a thought I'd had many times but rarely spoken aloud. Lily has a crisis, and everything else, everyone else takes a back seat. Including me. Especially me. He didn't deny it, which was something at least. "Where's Lily now?" I asked. "With your mother." Marcus left, but not before making it very clear he wants nothing to do with Lily or her situation. She's not in good shape. And Mom angry, hurt, embarrassed. He sighed heavily. "We'll be dealing with the fallout from this for a long time." I felt a twinge of sympathy despite myself. My sister had created a truly impossible situation, and my parents would be caught in the middle of it. But that didn't excuse how they'd treated me. "Dad, I love you and Mom, and I'll be there for Lily despite everything. But right now, I need some space from all of this. Ben and I are leaving for our honeymoon tomorrow, and when we get back, we're going to need to have a serious conversation about boundaries." My father nodded slowly. "I understand. And for what it's worth, I'm truly sorry, Arya. This should have been your perfect day." I looked across the room at Ben, who was chatting with his parents but keeping a watchful eye on me. When our eyes met, he smiled that special smile that was just for me, and I felt a wave of certainty wash over me. "It was my perfect day, Dad," I said. Not because everything went according to plan, but because at the end of it, I'm married to Ben. That's all that matters. My father nodded, looking slightly relieved. "He's a good man." "You chose well." "I did," I agreed. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to spend the rest of my wedding reception with my husband." I rejoined Ben on the dance floor for the last dance of the night. As we swayed together, I leaned my head on his shoulder. "Ready to get out of here," he murmured. "So ready," I admitted. "Take me anywhere that's not here." "How about the honeymoon suite?" he suggested. "Just you and me and a bottle of champagne that's been chilling all day." "Perfect," I sighed. We made our exit shortly after, amid a shower of rose petals and well wishes from our remaining guests. My parents stood to the side. My mother noticeably absent, presumably still dealing with Lily's meltdown. My father raised a hand in farewell, which I acknowledged with a nod. In the elevator up to our suite, Ben pulled me close. "Some wedding, huh?" I laughed, despite myself. "One for the record books, definitely. At least we'll have a story to tell our kids someday." "A heavily edited version," I said, leaning into his embrace. The honeymoon suite, which thankfully had not been commandeered for my sister's use, was a welcome sanctuary after the chaos of the day. Champagne was indeed waiting, along with chocolate-covered strawberries and a small mountain of gifts that had been brought up from the reception. "Should we open them now?" Ben asked, gesturing to the presents. "Definitely not," I said, kicking off my heels with a groan of relief. "Right now, all I want is to get out of this dress, drink that champagne, and pretend my family doesn't exist for at least the next 12 hours. Ben grinned and reached for the champagne. "That, Mrs. Hartford, can absolutely be arranged." We left for Hawaii the next morning without seeing any of my family. My mother had texted late the night before a rambling message about Lily being devastated and, could I please call her in the morning, but I'd silenced my phone and decided the drama could wait until after my honeymoon. Hawaii was exactly what we needed: 10 days of sun, sand, and blissful distance from family drama. I checked my messages occasionally, enough to know that my parents were still dealing with the aftermath of Lily's revelation, but I didn't call or respond to their increasingly urgent texts. This was my honeymoon, and I refused to let it become about Lily's problems. "They'll survive without you playing mediator for once," Ben said one evening as we watched the sunset from our private balcony. "Your parents are adults. So is Lily. Let them figure it out." He was right, of course. My role as family peacekeeper was long established, but it wasn't a healthy one. And stepping back was long overdue. When we returned home, tanned and relaxed, reality was waiting in the form of dozens of messages from my family. I sorted through them quickly, getting the gist Lily was staying with our parents. Marcus had threatened legal action if she continued to involve him in her mess, and my mother was devastated by the public humiliation of it all. None of the messages contained an apology for how they'd treated me and Ben, or any acknowledgement of how their behavior had impacted our wedding day. "Are you going to call them back?" Ben asked as I set down my phone with a sigh. "Not today," I decided. Maybe not tomorrow either. I need to figure out what I want to say first. In the end, it was nearly a week after our return before I felt ready to face my family. Ben offered to come with me, but I knew this was something I needed to do alone. "I've got this," I assured him. "And if it goes badly, I'll call you for an emergency extraction." He kissed me goodbye at the door. "Remember, you don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your energy, and definitely not your guilt." My parents' house looked the same as always from the outside. A tidy suburban home with my mother's carefully tended garden out front. But the atmosphere inside was heavy with tension as soon as I walked through the door. My mother engulfed me in a tight hug. "Oh, Arya! We've been so worried. You hardly responded to any of our messages." "I was on my honeymoon, Mom," I reminded her, gently extracting myself from her embrace. "You know, that trip people take after their wedding." My father emerged from his study, looking relieved to see me. "Welcome home, honey." "How was Hawaii beautiful?" I said. "Peaceful." An awkward silence fell. No one seemed to know how to address the elephant in the room, or rather, the pregnant sister who had caused a scene at my wedding. "Where's Lily?" I asked finally. "Upstairs, resting," my mother said quickly. "She's been having a hard time. The stress of everything, it's not good for the baby." I bit back a retort about stress at weddings and took a deep breath instead. "I think we need to talk." My parents exchanged glances. "Of course," my father said. "Let's sit down." We moved to the living room, where my mother immediately launched into a detailed account of the aftermath of the wedding drama, how Lily had confessed everything, how they'd been dealing with the gossip from family and friends, how worried they were about her pregnancy now that the truth was out about the father. "She's going to be a single mother," my mother lamented. "And Josh is refusing to acknowledge the baby is his. His wife is threatening to file a harassment claim if Lily contacts him again." I listened silently, waiting for any mention of how their actions had affected my wedding day. It didn't come. "We're just thankful you're home now," my mother concluded. "Lily needs her big sister. She's been asking for you." I took another deep breath, reminding myself of what Ben had said. I didn't owe them my guilt. "Mom, Dad," I said carefully, "I understand Lily is going through a difficult time. And I'll be there for her and for the baby when they need me." My mother nodded, looking relieved. "I knew we could count on you, honey." "But," I continued, holding up a hand to stop her, "we need to talk about what happened at my wedding. And more importantly, what happened in the weeks leading up to it." My parents looked confused, as if they couldn't possibly imagine what I was referring to. "From the moment Lily announced her pregnancy, you both made my wedding about her," I said plainly. "You changed arrangements, altered schedules, rearranged rooms, all to accommodate her. You didn't ask how I felt about any of it. You just expected me to go along with it, like I always have." "Arya," my mother began, her tone defensive, "you know we were just trying to help Lily during a difficult time. She needed our support. And I didn't. I challenged. It was my wedding, Mom. The biggest day of my life so far. But it felt like all you and Dad cared about was making sure Lily was comfortable." "That's not fair," my father protested. "Of course we cared about your wedding. We paid for half of it." "This isn't about money," I said, feeling my frustration rising. "It's about consideration. About treating me like my feelings and preferences matter too. About not assuming that I'll always step aside for Lily's latest crisis. My mother looked genuinely puzzled. But you've always been so understanding about Lily. You're the strong one, the responsible one. Lily needs more support, she always has. And there it was, the family dynamic laid bare. I was the reliable daughter who didn't need attention or support because I was strong. Lily was the fragile one who needed constant care and accommodation. I'm not saying Lily doesn't need support, I said carefully. But I needed it too, especially on my wedding day. And neither of you were there for me. You were too busy rearranging my carefully planned day to suit Lily's needs. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. And then, I continued, unable to stop now that I'd started, the cherry on top was the scene at the reception. Did you really think inviting Marcus was a good idea? Mom, did you consider for even a second what might happen if he showed up? My mother had the grace to look ashamed. I thought he should know about the baby. I thought it was the right thing to do. At my wedding, I asked incredulously. You thought my wedding reception was the right time and place for that conversation. I didn't expect him to make a scene, she defended weakly. What did you expect? I pressed. That he'd quietly accept paternity of a child that wasn't his, that he wouldn't confront Lily about her lies, that a man who supposedly wanted nothing to do with her would suddenly step up as Father of the Year. My father placed a restraining hand on my mother's arm as she opened her mouth to respond. Ari is right, Helen, he said quietly. We didn't think it through. And we didn't consider how our actions would affect her wedding. My mother's expression crumpled. I never meant to ruin your day, sweetheart. I got so caught up in Lily's situation that I lost perspective. That's been happening my entire life, I said, my voice softening despite myself. Every time Lily has a problem, everything else, everyone else becomes secondary. Including me. Silence fell as my parents absorbed my words. I could see they were struggling to reconcile their perception of our family dynamic with the reality I was describing. I love Lily, I continued, and I'll support her through this pregnancy and beyond. But I need you both to understand that your behavior hurt me. It made me feel like my wedding, one of the most important days of my life, was just a backdrop for Lily's drama. Oh, Aria. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. We never meant to make you feel that way. Intentions aside, that's what happened, I said firmly. And I need you to acknowledge it and commit to doing better in the future. Because this pattern can't continue. My father nodded slowly. You're right. We've fallen into habits that aren't fair to you. We'll do better. My mother reached for my hand. Can you forgive us, honey? For everything I hesitated. Forgiveness wouldn't come instantly, not after years of the same pattern. But it was a start that they were acknowledging the problem. I'm working on it, I said honestly. But I need time, and I need to see real change. Before they could respond, footsteps on the stairs announced Lily's arrival. She paused in the doorway, looking uncertain when she saw me. Aria, she said quietly. You're back. I nodded, taking in her appearance. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but there was a small, definite bump visible beneath her loose t-shirt now. My niece or nephew, despite all the drama surrounding their existence. Can we talk? She asked. Alone, my parents took the hint and excused themselves. My mother pausing to squeeze my shoulder as she passed a gesture that felt more genuine than any she'd offered in weeks. Lily took their place on the couch, curling her legs beneath her like she used to do when we were teenagers sharing secrets. I don't even know where to start, she said after a moment. Sorry doesn't begin to cover it. No, I agreed. It doesn't. She winced at my bluntness but nodded. I messed up. Not just with the lies about Marcus, but with everything. I let Mom make your wedding about me. I should have stopped her, told her I was fine, that we didn't need to change all your plans. Why didn't you? I asked, genuinely curious. Lily shrugged helplessly. It was easier not to. And, to be honest, part of me liked the attention, as awful as that sounds. For once, I wasn't the screw-up sister compared to perfect area. I raised my eyebrows. Perfect area. Is that how you see me? That's how everyone sees you, she said with a hint of the old sibling rivalry. The responsible one, the successful one, the one with the perfect relationship and the perfect job, and now the perfect marriage. I laughed without humor. My life isn't perfect, Lily. It never has been. I've just learned to handle my problems without creating a crisis that engulfs the entire family. She had the grace to look ashamed. I know. And I've relied on that, on knowing you'll always be the stable one who doesn't need the spotlight. She placed a hand on her small bump. But I need to grow up now. This baby deserves better than a mother who creates drama and runs from responsibility. It was perhaps the most mature thing I'd ever heard my sister say. For what it's worth, she continued, I am truly sorry about what happened at your wedding. I never should have let Mom call Marcus. I knew it would end badly, but I was too much of a coward to tell her the truth. I studied my sister's face, seeing genuine remorse there. Why did you lie about Marcus being the father in the first place? Why not just tell Mom and Dad the truth from the start? Lily sighed. Because the truth makes me look terrible. Having an affair with a married man getting pregnant, it's like every bad life choice rolled into one. I panicked and said the first thing that came to mind, that it was Marcus's. I figured he'd never know, and it made me seem less culpable, I guess. But if you had to know it would come out eventually, I pointed out. Babies have fathers, Lily. They don't just disappear because they're inconvenient. I wasn't thinking long-term, she admitted. I never do, right? That's your department. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy for my sister. She had made a terrible mess of things, but she was facing consequences that would last a lifetime. A child deserved better than to be the result of so many lies, but that wasn't the baby's fault. What are you going to do now? I asked. About the baby, about Josh. About everything I'm keeping the baby, she said firmly. That much I'm sure of. As for Josh, he's made it clear he wants nothing to do with us. His wife knows everything, and they're working on their marriage, whatever that means. Will you pursue child support? She nodded. Eventually. My lawyer says we'll need a paternity test after the baby's born, but the texts between us make it pretty clear we were involved. He won't be able to deny it forever. And what about you? Where will you live? How will you support yourself? And the baby, I'm staying with Mom and Dad for now, she said. At least until the baby comes. After that, I don't know. I need to figure it out. I thought about Ben and our apartment, about the life we were building together. The last thing we needed was Lily and a newborn moving in with us, that much I knew for certain. You can't stay with them forever, I said gently. And you can't stay with Ben and me either, I added, seeing the question forming in her eyes. She looked disappointed but nodded. I know. I need to stand on my own 2 feet, for once in my life. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had happened and everything still to come hanging between us. I won't pretend everything's okay between us, I said finally. What happened at my wedding? It can't be erased or forgotten. But you're my sister, and that baby is my niece or nephew. I'm not turning my back on either of you. Relief washed over Lily's face. Thank you, she whispered. I wouldn't blame you if you did, after everything. That's not who I am, I said simply. But things need to change, Lily. The family dynamic, the way Mom and Dad drop everything for your crises, the way I'm expected to just understand and accommodate all of it needs to change. I know, she agreed. And I'll try, Arya. I really will. Starting with telling Mom and Dad to back off and let me handle my own problems. I smiled slightly, imagining my mother's reaction to that declaration of independence. I'd like to see that. Lily smiled too. A small, tentative smile, but real nonetheless. So we're going to be okay eventually. I thought about the years of resentment, about my hijacked wedding day, about the months of family drama still to come as Lily's pregnancy progressed. But I also thought about the little one growing inside her, an innocent in all this chaos. Eventually, I agreed. It's going to take time and real effort from everyone. But yes, eventually. The next few months were a process of rebuilding trust with my family, rebuilding boundaries that should have been established years ago, and building a new kind of relationship with my sister as she prepared to become a mother. True to her word, Lily began taking more responsibility for her situation. She found a job that would allow her to work from home after the baby was born, started looking for an affordable apartment of her own, and even joined a support group for single mothers. My parents struggled more with the changes. Years of established patterns don't disappear overnight, and my mother especially found it difficult not to swoop in and take over whenever Lily faced a challenge. But they were trying, and that meant something. Ben and I settled into married life with the kind of easy companionship that comes from truly knowing and accepting each other. Our apartment became a sanctuary, a place where family drama took a back seat to our own priorities and plans. Have you thought about whether you want to be in the delivery room? Ben asked one evening as we discussed Lily's upcoming due date. She's been hinting pretty strongly that she wants you there. I considered the question carefully. My relationship with Lily had improved over the past months, but there were still raw spots, still moments when old resentments flared. I think I do, I said finally. Not for Lily, but for the baby. He or she deserves to have someone there who's just happy they've arrived, without all the complicated feelings. Ben nodded, understanding as always. And what about after your mom mentioned something about a baby shower? I rolled my eyes. Of course she did. But actually, I've been thinking about that. What if we host it here? Ben looked surprised. Here in our apartment, you want to voluntarily invite your family drama into our space. Hear me out, I said. If we host it, we set the terms. We control the guest list, the timing, everything. It's a way of supporting Lily and the baby while maintaining boundaries. He considered this, then nodded slowly. That makes sense. And it would mean a lot to your sister. It would, I agreed. Plus, I'm genuinely excited about becoming an aunt, despite everything. This baby is innocent in all the family mess. Ben pulled me close. You're a better person than most. You know that I rested my head on his shoulder. I'm trying to be, anyway. The shower was a success, small, tasteful, and focused on welcoming the baby rather than rehashing family drama. Lily was touched by the effort, and even my mother managed to restrain herself from taking over the planning or making the event about her feelings. When Lily went into labor 3 weeks later, slightly early but not dangerously so, I was the one she called first. It's happening, she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and terror. Can you come to the hospital I looked at then, who nodded encouragingly? On my way, I told her. The next 12 hours were a blur of hospital waiting rooms, worried parents, and periodic updates from the labor and delivery nurses. My mother was a nervous wreck, my father stoic but clearly anxious, and I found myself in the familiar role of family mediator, but this time by choice rather than expectation. When my niece finally arrived, red-faced and screaming at the injustice of being thrust into the cold, bright world, I was the first family member Lily asked to see. Meet your Aunt Aria, she whispered to the tiny bundle in her arms. She's the strongest, smartest person I know, and you're lucky to have her. I felt tears prick my eyes as Lily carefully transferred the baby to my arms. She was perfect. A tiny, perfect human with Lily's nose and a head full of dark hair that must have come from her father. "She's beautiful," I said softly. "What's her name?" Lily hesitated. I was thinking Hope, because that's what she represents to me. A new beginning. A chance to do better. "Hope," I repeated, looking down at the sleeping infant. "It's perfect." As I held my niece for the first time, I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the wedding drama, the family confrontations, the months of rebuilding relationships piece by piece. None of it had been easy, and there would be challenges ahead as Lily navigated single motherhood and our family adjusted to its newest member. But looking at Hope's peaceful face, I felt something settle within me. The past couldn't be changed, but the future wasn't written yet. And maybe, just maybe, this little one would be the catalyst for lasting change in our family dynamics. "Welcome to the family, Hope," I whispered. "It's complicated and messy sometimes, but we love each other. And we're all going to do better for you." Then joined me a few minutes later, peering down at our niece with wonder. "She's amazing," he said. "How does it feel to be Aunt Aria?" I smiled up at him. "Pretty wonderful, actually." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Your parents want to come in next. They're practically vibrating with anticipation out there." I nodded. "Tell them to come in. But after that, let's go home." "Just us." "Just us," he agreed. "Until the next family drama." I laughed softly. "With any luck, this one will take a break for a while." As my parents entered the room, faces alight with grandparent joy, I handed Hope back to Lily and stepped aside. The moment belonged to them now. Ben and I would build our own moments, our own family, in our own time. "Ready to go?" Ben asked quietly after we'd made our congratulations and promised to return tomorrow. "Ready," I confirmed. As we left the hospital hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in months. My wedding day might not have gone according to plan, but in its aftermath, something valuable had emerged, a clearer understanding of what I needed from my family and what I was willing to give in return. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Lily with a photo of Hope sleeping in her hospital bassinet. "Thank you for being here today." "For everything." I smiled and showed Ben the message. "Progress," I said. "Definitely progress," he agreed. "And it only took a wedding disaster and a new baby to get there." I laughed and leaned into his side as we walked to our car. "Some lessons come harder than others, but they still count." "They absolutely do," Ben said, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. "Now, let's go home. Home. To our apartment, our life, our future together." A future that would include my complicated family, my new niece, and all the drama that would inevitably come but on our terms now. With boundaries intact and expectations clear. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was worth more than any picture-perfect wedding day could ever be.